Chef Dan Frenette is in the kitchen, and I'm off to the Evergreen Brickwork Farmers Market. Welcome to Market to Table. I'm Nigel Napier-Andrews, and today we're going to investigate the Evergreen Brickworks Farmers Market. For almost 100 years, until 1984, Don Valley Brickworks produced bricks for many of Canada's national and heritage buildings from this 40-acre site. Since 1998, much of the site has been preserved as a natural area, park, wetlands and wildflower meadows, ravine forests and trails, through the hard work of Evergreen volunteers. Now, about 184,000 square feet of former industrial space has been renovated and restored. The farmers market started in 2007 with 25 local farmers and producers, and has grown to become the largest farmers market in Toronto. The Evergreen Brickworks was also named one of the world's top 10 geotourism destinations. Well, the crowds are coming, so let's get shopping before all the good stuff is gone. So Mimi, I guess what we're used to in the supermarket, heaven forbid that I should mention supermarket in a farmer's market, but what we're used to is food that was picked unripe, travelled in a truck thousands of miles and then delivered to our shelves. And it doesn't taste anything like this. This is a whole different taste sensation, isn't it?
That's actually something that my brother actually worked really hard on developing. There's a couple of things to consider. When you're picking tree-ripened fruit, you're actually maximizing all the nutrients in the fruit. So we wanted to bring the best quality and the best tasting fruit to farmers markets.
You specialize in tree-ripened fruit, so you let it stay on the tree until it's absolutely perfect and then you pick it?
It's one of our strategies for a sustainable farm is to try and pick, pack and sell the fruit fresh every day. So we're moving the fruit constantly through the orchard. And, people do actually, after you educate the public a little bit, people really come back and they taste the difference in the fruit.
It's gorgeous.
And then you store it and they go, you say, right through till April, we can get fresh apples.
Well, the apples are a little bit different. All the other fruits, the tender fruits, like the stone fruits, they're picked daily and brought to the markets daily. We go to markets about 5 days out of the week, mostly in Toronto. And we basically, with apples and pears, because they're a hardier winter fruit, you can actually hold on to them longer, so you pick them when they're at their maximum.
When you pick the apple at the last minute, when it's just tree ripened like that, I guess it's bursting with flavor at that point, and it keeps that flavor.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the apples right now, you can't get a better flavor from them. If we've got right now probably 6 different apples on the table. If you went through each one of them, everyone has a different burst of flavor, and you'd be able to identify them based on that. But I personally have a passion, and I know our family has always believed that if you have good fresh fruit available and food available to you, then you're going to be a healthier society.
So there you have it. Good food, happy people, healthy cities. How could you say it better than that? Usually Henry's here, your chief baking officer. I guess he really is the chief baking officer.
He is our chief baking officer. So Henry is the baker. He's a chef by trade from many, many years ago.
It says fresh bread warms the heart. This is all wonderfully fresh bread. How fresh is it?
Henry bakes all night long. So because it's 100% sourdough, the process is not just from 2 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock when I leave. It starts about Thursday night when he builds the pre-ferments, when he builds the starting point to the breads. The actual loaves get made Friday evenings and they get baked all night Friday night. So the multigrain was coming out of the oven just as we were packing the car up. So the car is lovely and smells delicious on the drive-in.
We have wonderful fresh bread here, just such a variety. Perhaps you can tell me about it.
Humble bread, we use a lot of rye. Rye is very good for our guts. It's also a very good grain for the soil. So we use a lot of rye. So starting from the end, we have our baguettes, which is not a classic French baguette. Because it is a sourdough base, Henry also uses about 10 to 12% rye in his baguette. So that would be considered probably our lightest of the regular breads, as in lightest rye. We have our hard unbleached organic white as well as rye. And then there's the grains that go in there. We have our olive bread, our Kalamata olive loaves.
And that's my favorite. That's the one I buy every week.
That's the one. It's so delicious. And really, you know what? Everybody has their favorites, right? So it's definitely, people come back week after week and they get the exact same loaf. And I'm like, don't you want to try something new? No.
Explain this style of farming to me and how it differs from other people's style of farming.
Farming I do is small scale, and it's more from the heart than from a financial perspective or something like that. I'm concerned about the soil. I'm concerned about the earth more than what I have here is kind of a byproduct of what I do. So every day I wake up in the morning and I go out to my greenhouse and I see my cows and I make sure everything's the way it should be, and I make sure that I'm using what I can from them and from the area to build soil, to build better product and better, happier, healthier produce and cows and everything I do.
So now here we are at the end of the season. There's not much left, but what have you got today?
Yesterday I finished picking and I opened up the garden to my cows. So my cows have finished off the rest of all the garden, and now this is the rest of all that I have left. So yeah, we got some kale, some bok choy, some cabbage, rutabaga, carrots, and some beets.
Now, one thing that you have not got here today is a very special product that you have on your farm, and that's your very special cattle.
They're Scottish Highland cows, and I try to keep it to 10 to 15, sometimes it ends up going over, but I have a very small herd, and what I do with them is, with biodynamics, you want to try to keep a sustained system or a sustainable system, so that's why I can't get my numbers too high. I want to make sure that there's enough grass for them to eat. So I rotate them through fresh grass all summer, new fields every day. And then for the winter, I have a number of other fields where I harvest hay for the winter with machinery, and then I put that in the barn for them, and then they eat all of our grass all season.
So this would make really, really tasty beef.
Yes, definitely. So it's just 100% grass-fed. So it's more like a buffalo or elk kind of. They're also Scottish Highland cows, so it's more of a lean meat. So when you cook it, just cook it low and slow, and it's nothing but flavor.
You obviously don't do all the foraging yourself. You must have a great network of contacts across the country.
A lot of foraging is rarely done by the foragers themselves. They'll do some of it themselves, but if you want to do something like this, you need to have a bunch of different things. If I only did fiddleheads, I would have a lot of business for a couple weeks of every year, and then that would be the end of my year. So the way that we manage to make it feasible is by casting a very wide net. I do all Canadian things, but it's anywhere from the East Coast in Nova Scotia and Halifax and pickers who are working up into the wilds, to the West Coast, to BC and the interior, as well as Haida Gwaii and the Queen Charlottes. I have people that pick in the Northwest Territories and almost everywhere in between. I think on my table today I could pick you out something from every province, almost for sure. And so we have a lot of fun. Drying mushrooms is a fantastic way to preserve the mushrooms. It carries all the flavor and more so. Mushrooms, say, that starts at about yay big as a fresh mushroom will dehydrate to about a quarter of its size or so, and then rehydrate to about half of its original size. So when it comes to flavor, bite for bite, dried mushrooms often have a little more flavor than they're fresh.
You started out at farmers markets, and then you became a butcher, and then you got the farm last. It's sort of backwards, isn't it?
I've been in the game business probably for about 20-something years. Initially what I did was used to work with the co-op farmers, bring their product in and resell it into distribution for them. After a number of years doing that, we kind of decided that we would want to not only have our own situation with the marketplace, but also our own stores. So we opened a store that could provide farmer market type meats on a regular basis as opposed to once a week. That grew into a situation where we actually needed a plant in order to do some value adds and expand our customer base. And after we got the plant going, we decided, well, why not? We've got the property, why don't we farm ourselves as well?
Sean, you obviously sell a lot of things as a butcher, and you have your own butcher shops. But here in the market, one of the specialties that people find very popular is game. Tell me about that.
We raise our own fallow deer, which is a European type cross, and the reason we raise those are a bit of a smaller animal, easier for us to handle. We find that the smaller animals are much more tender in respect to the meat process as well.
Tell me a little bit about what the natural benefits of venison are.
Venison, I think, is a great match for Canadian lifestyle, Canadian way we live. I think the animals grow here naturally. They eat the nutrients that I think that we need for ourselves to live in this environment as well. And I think it's a perfect match as far as a sustainable type protein for us.
Oh yes, now it looks like a watermelon. All this wonderful food comes through this very special farm. So tell me all about Everdale.
Sure, so Everdale's, it's pretty unique. It's an educational farm. So there's 6 of us in the Sustainable Farming Certificate program this year. So it's an 8-month program on the ins and outs of sustainable organic farming, vegetable farming. It's really important because there's not much education out there for organic farming, and there definitely needs to be more subsidies involved in organic farming. So it shows you how hard it is to actually make it as an organic farmer. But to grow your own produce is an amazing learning experience. People really love our beets. So we have 3 different kinds. We just bunch them together. So we have the purple beets, the golden beets, and the candy cane beets.
Tell me a little bit about this. This is a very unusual looking beet here.
These ones are pretty unique and very cool. So I'll cut this in half and show you what they look like.
And look at that. It's all just like a little candy cane in the middle. It smells really earthy and beety, doesn't it? I mean, what a wonderful fragrance. So you personally have seeded these vegetables, you've weeded them, you've planted them, you've plucked them yesterday, harvested them and brought them to the market, and now you're selling them.
Yeah, mostly everything starts in the greenhouse. So we do all the seeding in the greenhouse, and then we bring it out to the field and transplant it, either with our transplanter machine or just by hand, one by one. And yeah, we have some irrigation lines and we weed it. One of the biggest things in organic farming is weeding, because it's really hard to compete with all the other weeds. So you're really trying to manipulate the land.
Because you don't spray anything.
No, we don't spray anything. We do use some compost teas sometimes, which would just be kelp and some seaweed, things like that, but no chemical pesticides or fertilizers.
And at the end of this year at the farm, you'll be a fully qualified Evergreen organic farmer.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm ready to start my own farm, whether I will or not. I'll be somewhere within the food scope of Toronto, so we'll see. But I have all the knowledge now to do it. A smaller bag?
It's such great fun to shop in a farmer's market that I don't think I can carry anymore, so let's get into the kitchen and create another scrumptious meal. We're here in our wonderful Miele kitchen with Chef Dan Frenette, and I'm back from shopping at the Evergreen Brickwork Farmers Market. Dan, what are we making today?
We're going to make a rack of venison with some heirloom carrots, some parsnip puree, sautéed Brussels sprouts.
Wow. Yes, I love Brussels sprouts, so I'm really good for that. Sautéed Brussels sprouts.
Perfect.
You know, lots of people don't like Brussels sprouts.
No, you're absolutely
But
right.
you've got to get your greens in.
You do.
Okay, so let's get started.
Perfect.
What are we going to start with?
Okay, so first things first, I'm going to need you to start peeling those for me.
Peeling parsnips.
Yeah.
And what are you going to be doing?
I'm going to start prepping this beet here. And we're
Okay.
going to roast this beet in the oven.
Okay.
And we're going to let that go for quite a while at a lower temperature. And then once that's done, we're going to peel it and then quickly saute it so that we can help present it on the plate.
How am I doing? I'm sure
You're
in
doing
the kitchen
a wonderful job.
I'm going for quality here. I can imagine in the kitchen in the back there is a whole vegetable prep area.
There is.
Yeah.
There is.
And people who just do that all day long.
So now we're just going to throw this in the oven. It's at
Oh, okay.
350 degrees.
Just like that.
Yeah,
Not
just-
on a rack or anything.
No. It's
Great.
covered in tin foil. We're going to lock in all of those juices,
Okay.
and we're not going to lose any of that beautiful color. So
Now,
what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to get a pot of water on the stove
Right.
so that we can blanch the Brussels sprouts. So with these,
Yes.
we've already sort of peeled off the outside layer
Right.
of them because they're always kind of yucky.
At this time of year they are.
Absolutely. So
Yes.
then you're just going to trim the bottom off them,
Okay.
and that's it.
Do you want to put a little cross in the bottom? No?
No.
Okay.
No,
Is
definitely not.
Is that an amateur thing?
No, it does speed the cooking process,
Right.
but what we're going to do afterwards is we're then going to cut them in half.
Oh, I see.
And if you've put a cross mark at the top
They'll
of
start-
it,
Yes.
they're not going to cut nicely.
Right,
And the
they'll
leaves
start
are going
to
to
fall to
start peeling.
pieces.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, anyway, I think, Brussels sprouts at this time of year is a really good idea because parsnips, root vegetables, Brussels sprouts, onions, there's not much growing.
No.
So
There's
these last well in the fields, and
They do.
They're still harvesting them in the
They
farmers
do.
market.
They do indeed.
So just taking the bottoms off.
Yep.
Look, I've got a perfect row, 5 little Brussels sprouts. I'll put them back in the pot for Chef and return them to you, sir.
Perfect.
There you go.
You're going to peel some more.
Okay.
So these I'm going to ask you to be a little bit more delicate
Well,
with.
now, these rainbow carrots
Yes.
came from Everdale Farm. There's still a little bit of the dirt left, but because I'm peeling and we're going to cook them, it doesn't matter. And we've got 3 different carrots of 3 different colors. Oh, look at the color on that.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Purple carrot. Purple carrots take longer to cook. Mm-hmm. The lighter colored carrots are the sweetest.
Yes, they are.
Isn't that interesting?
Sugar content, yeah.
Yes. So we just chop and peel them.
So I'm just going to blanch these lightly.
Yes, let's have a look at you doing that.
And then we're just going to lock in some of that
so
color as well as the
put them
flavor.
in there for?
Not very long.
No.
A couple minutes. So once those are done, then we're going to blanch our Brussels sprouts.
Right.
And in the meantime, we're going to get ready with some garlic because you can't go wrong with using garlic.
And I just want to mention that over here we have a wonderful rack of venison.
Oh, it's going to be a lot of fun to play
in the
with.
oven too, doesn't it?
It does. We're going to have to sear that first.
Okay.
We're going to season it as well with just a small amount of salt.
I can't believe you're smacking that very, 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 very sharp Japanese knife like that with such aplomb. But I guess you know what you're doing.
Yes.
Is that years of practice in cutting fingers off?
A couple, yes, a couple.
How many fingers do you have left?
All of them. They grow back as long as you cut above the top knuckle. That's a joke, but.
That is a joke. I'm going to remember that one, though. So garlic?
Garlic, yep. And this is just going to be for later when we decide to saute our vegetables.
Okay.
As well as we're going to start working with our parsnip puree. Just get this stove lit. Perfect. So we're going to start with a small amount of olive oil.
Okay.
You can actually do that for me. Maybe about a tablespoon. All right.
1 tablespoon.
That's perfect. Wonderful.
Now these have been going for about, what, 2 minutes now? Is that about right?
We can actually probably pull those out. And we'll just let them rest over here.
Okay.
So we've locked in our colors. We're not going to lose any of that when we start to saute it. Another method you could use if you're worried about the bleeding out is you could add a very small amount of vinegar. Same principle as poaching.
Right.
That also helps lock in the flavors. I find it's not necessary unless you're fully cooking the carrots. If you're only par cooking them, as we've done, you don't really need that vinegar process. Right. Okay. So while that's going and while we've got all these other things going on, we might as well drop our Brussels sprouts down to get them blanching
Into
off.
nice hot water. Our oil is heating up nicely in here.
Perfect. So we're just going to peel this onion.
You know, the wonderful thing about a gas stove, and it's so nice to be able to work here in the Miele kitchen, that is a real gas range. You just can't get the sort of quick reaction out of an electric stove, although these days the new induction stoves are pretty decent.
The induction burners are fantastic. So we've just roughly chopped the onion. It doesn't much matter what size it's cut because we're going to end up pureeing all of this anyways.
Okay.
So I'm going to leave you in charge. Do not burn
You just
that.
want it?
We don't want any color on that whatsoever as we are making a white sauce, okay? So it is going to be a white puree.
And we're just going to sweat these onions then?
Exactly. In fact, we
is
can
that
probably
the correct term?
Sweat them, yeah, saute, that's fine. So we're just going to add a small amount of garlic now.
Okay.
And now we do not want to burn this. That's why we turn down the heat. So as that's cooking away, we can take it on and off the heat.
I see.
Okay?
And that's what you do in a professional kitchen. You take it on and off the heat rather than turning the heat up and down.
I find in my experience working on any line in the kitchen, you'd be going back and forth off and on the heat a lot, opposed to taking the time to turn down all of the stove and kind of leave them cranked up in the middle of service. So now we're going to drop in our parsnips. I'm just going to take these Brussels sprouts out.
Yes.
Now that they've been blanched. They were probably in there for about 2 minutes.
They are beginning to look absolutely gorgeous.
Well, the color certainly changed on them, didn't it?
Yes. They're a lovely, lovely sort of fresh spring green.
They are. Okay, so now I added a pinch of salt to this.
Yes.
And now we're going to add some cream. This is 35% cream.
Wow.
We're not counting calories here.
No.
We're making things taste good.
No.
As well as, because we're going to add a little bit of lemon zest later on,
okay.
If I were to add milk to that, bring it to a boil and add lemon zest, we're going to be well into making cheese. Okay, so we're not trying to curdle the milk.
Right.
All right? Excuse my reach.
Yes, please.
I'm just going to turn this down a little bit more so that it simmers away and gets these cooked. We want them to be quite tender, okay? Now, because we are pureeing this, we're not trying to perfectly cook these. In fact, you want to overcook them just a touch so that they puree better.
Yes.
And once that happens, you'll be able to create more of the consistency of your puree will be far superior than something that you've undercooked, let's say, because then it'll be chunky. We're looking for silky smooth, very fluffy, almost like an aerated puree. That's what we're after. Okay?
Outstanding. So these parsnips are coming along just beautifully. They're starting to soften.
They're starting to.
Give them a couple of minutes more, I guess.
Yeah. So while that's happening, we're going to take these beautiful carrots. We're going to try to keep these relatively the same thickness, okay, just for presentation purposes. We have to start worrying about our protein now, okay? So we're going to get this pan very hot.
Yes.
All right?
Now, I noticed that your rack of lamb has come from the butcher already Frenched, and
It
you've
has.
just sort of tidied it up a bit more,
I did.
notice.
I just tidied it up with a knife, sort of scraped off any remaining sinew that was there.
Right.
And then what I did was I let it age for a couple days. Okay, so what I mean by that is once I cleaned the silver skin off of it, I laid it on a rack, on a drying rack, put it in the fridge for 2 days, and let that air sort of circulate around it. And that's why it's such a dark color. All right? We've got some tin foil here, and what we're going to do, and you want to do this before you oil this or season it. We're going to cover the bones in tin foil, okay, individually as well. That's very important to do it individually. And why we're doing that is specifically just for presentation, okay? So we're going to cover these up.
And what will it help the bones do or not do?
It's going to keep the bones white.
Ah.
You
So
know,
they
all
won't
the red will disappear.
Right.
Okay, but if I were to sear this in this hot pan in oil with the bones uncovered, you know, there is going to be some caramelization.
Right.
They are going to start to get discolored. You know, and I find specifically for presentation purposes, if you cover the bones, a white bone versus a nice red cut of meat that's been perfectly cooked, you know, you have a nice contrast of colors there.
Wonderful.
Right? So let me turn this back on here. I didn't want it to get too hot.
Now, is that one portion or is that two portions?
This will
there?
be 2 portions.
Right.
I mean, I could certainly eat the whole thing, but it's unnecessary.
That's my tablespoon pour.
Perfect. So that's a good hot pan. So the
Yes.
oil's already starting to leg, and what I mean by that is it starts to move on its own because the pan's already hot. Now what we're going to do is we're going to sear this.
Okay.
And it's very important to always sear away from you, okay? So we're searing away from ourselves, preventing it from splashing up on us, okay? Okay, so this is exactly why we covered it. If these bones were exposed right now,
Yes.
and I was searing that in this hot pan in the oil, they would start to change color.
Right.
They would start to brown. That's getting pretty close, actually. Let me see this. We're very close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just another few moments.
Just a couple more minutes, and then what we're going to do is we're going to finish this with lemon zest.
Okay.
Right before we blend, not before. We're trying to accent that flavor and give it a little bit of that lemony flavor, that accent, which is going to work really, really well with this venison. All right, so we've got our beautiful sear on this. We're just going to sear the sides. That's one side done. Sear this side. We can turn that off. That's ready to go. And in fact, what we're going to do is, because we've got a beautiful pan, it's all made out of metal.
May I do the oven for you?
Absolutely. This is just going to go straight in the oven as is. All right?
Fantastic.
Perfect. So that's
And
the venison in.
The venison is cooking.
That's
the
right.
beet is in there cooking. And through the magic of television, we're going to move forward an hour. How
Yes.
long is that going to be in there?
That's not going to take very long. In fact, the beet's going to take a lot longer than the venison.
Okay.
The venison will probably be done. We've got it at 350 convection. Venison should be done within 7-10 minutes.
7 to 10
Yeah, we
minutes?
don't want to cook it past medium rare to medium.
Right.
Anything over medium with venison, because the lack of fat, it's going to be very tough.
Right.
It's not going to be very enjoyable.
Low
All right.
and slow.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And the beet?
The beet should be done probably within half an hour to 45 minutes.
I hear a little ding. I think our oven's ready.
Okay.
Let's have a look.
Perfect.
Wow.
So that venison, yeah, that's ready to go. Okay.
And our beet as well?
The beet's definitely ready, yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Okay, so we're gonna let the beet there.
Just
and
let
we're
it
gonna
sit?
let this rest. Okay, this
Okay.
needs to rest for a minimum of 5 minutes. Okay. We're just gonna quickly zest this lemon, a whole lemon.
That is a lot of lemon zest.
It is, and it's gonna go great with the venison. Okay, so that's all done.
In it goes.
In it goes.
Shall I stir it in?
Yeah, mix that in there nicely for me. Let's blend this.
Bringing the blender.
Now, one thing to be very careful of, Nigel.
Yes.
This is hot. It's going
Yes.
into a blender.
Okay.
When you add things that are hot into a blender, there's a lot of steam that tends to build up. And as soon as you turn it on, that steam likes to release. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this into here. We're going to cover it with not only the lid, then a towel, and you're going to hold on. And we're just going to pulse it one time so that that steam gets released, and then we'll turn it to low. And once that starts to do its thing, then we're going to turn it up to high. All right?
Sounds like a plan.
Safety first, Nigel.
Well, this is a very good tip because I wouldn't have thought that this was that hot. I can see now that you do not want me to burn myself.
I don't.
And all these lovely, wonderful ingredients going in here, the cream, the parsnip, the garlic, and topped off with some lemon zest. Ready.
Okay. Okay, so we've pulsed it. Now we're just going to turn it to low. Let that happen. And there we are.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Look at that. Thank you.
Okay, and there we are. We've got our venison. We've got our parsnip puree. We've got our blanched Brussels sprouts. Okay, we've got our cooked beet. And we've got our carrots.
Right.
Okay, all of which are ready to hit the frying pan and start plating.
Okay.
Okay, so first things first. We're going to take this beet, unwrap it.
And what are we going to plate onto?
Wow, that's a good question, Nigel.
Yes.
We're going to plate onto this, okay? So it's just a lovely piece of wood.
What a great idea.
Keeping it rustic.
And if you were catering for somebody and they'd ordered this, you'd have this as your...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Wonderful idea.
And I mean, it is appropriate. I mean, we are serving venison.
Yes.
Venison came out of the woods, and we're putting it back in, right?
Perfect.
We're having a laugh,
Works
Nigel.
for me.
Okay, we're going to lightly peel this, okay? Very lightly.
And that skin comes right off.
It does. You
In fact,
could do
being
this
beet,
with a
you
spoon.
could probably just pop it off squeezing it, couldn't you?
You could, but I find, for presentation purposes, this works. So, the reason why we peeled this so gently, so we
Yes.
could leave on this little nub.
I see.
Okay? So we peeled that as well. We're going to cut that into a half, and then we're going to cut that into a quarter. Okay? We've got these beautiful beets that still have their pieces on them. Okay? We're going to set those aside here. Pan on the heat. Another small nub of butter. We're going to take our Brussels sprouts. We're going to add these in. We're going to drop our carrots in there. Small amount of salt.
We haven't had any pepper in this meal yet.
Well, we're about to.
Are we? Oh, good.
Oh, yes. The reason I didn't put any pepper on the meat while I was searing it and introducing it to such high heats, I don't want to burn it,
I see.
right? A lot of chefs add pepper before they sear it. I typically don't. I like to finish with the pepper. We can also take these. These are going to become a nuisance now. So we can take those off. And see, we've still got these beautiful, nice, clean
Yes.
bones. Let's get our beets in here, which are still quite hot.
Better you than me.
Okay, so we've got them all in the one pan. That's fine. Everything's happening. A little bit of
Lovely.
garlic.
Ah, there goes the garlic.
Okay. Don't be shy with the garlic. Get a good saute here. Okay, mix everything together. That's fine. We're going to plate them all separately. We're not just going to pour this on the plate. Okay? Got a little bit of caramelization on the Brussels sprouts. The carrots are now cooked. The garlic's starting to come together. The seasoning's there. The butter's there. These are pretty much ready. We can turn these off the heat. Okay?
And with the venison, the watchword is low and slow.
Exactly. Exactly. So we can start plating that. We're just going to cut this in half. Okay? First things first. We got to follow the bone down. Okay? There we go. We've got our meat cooked off. It's at medium. Okay? So then just for presentation purposes. Okay? So we've got our presentation pieces here. Puree goes down. Okay? Give it a good stir.
So that's going to be our base.
This is the base, yeah. And it's funny. It's kind of a cross between mashed potatoes and then a looser puree. So you're going to get a little bit of starch, but it's going to be nice and creamy, and it's going to add to that, okay? So just got a couple good spoons of that and smear that down. Very simple. All right. Next, we're going to start adding a lot of the color to this dish, okay? So first things first, add a couple of the beets. Now we don't want to crowd the plate. Get some colors that contrast together, okay? Start adding in a little bit of the carrots. Okay, so we've got our vegetables down. We can add a couple pieces of the venison. Okay, there's one, and there's two, and you're plated.
Chef Dan, here we are with our wonderful venison. Tell me a little bit about it.
So you've got the parsnip puree, the sautéed heirloom carrots, the golden beet, and the Brussels sprouts, and of course, the venison rack. The sweetness from the parsnips is going to really accent all of the flavors there. You're going to have
pretty savory flavor that you get from the Brussels sprouts. The beets are going to be sweet. The carrots are going to be a great textural addition to that. And then it's all going to tie together with that really gaminess of the venison. That's why the parsnip there, I think, is crucial, because it's creamy, it adds a fat component, as well as it's sweet. So it really does accentuate everything else.
That's it from us today. Thanks to the folks at Miele for the use of their marvellous kitchen. For more information about their great kitchen appliances, please visit their website. And thanks to Chef Dan Frenette for joining us today. Now, if you want a personal chef for an event, and I suggest you might try that, please check out his website. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Nigel. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you for joining me today at Toronto's Evergreen Brickworks Farmers Market. For more information, please check out their website. And don't forget to visit my website at Gentleman's Portion for the recipes and all sorts of extras about the show. We'll see you next time on Market to Table.